Meanwhile, Max returned to the base only to find his companions gone. He began his wandering life in Antarctica. One day, Max was pleasantly surprised to discover a whale carcass on the ice. Starving, Max was about to eat when he noticed that all the meat on the whale's surface had been picked clean. Max moved forward to check other parts of the whale, but suddenly a sea lion burst out from the whale's belly, frightening Max into fleeing immediately. However, Max had been starving for days and felt reluctant to give up. Just then, Max heard a dog bark from the mountaintop. Looking up, he saw his brothers had arrived. Encouraged by his companions, Max was no longer afraid. After exchanging glances with Maya, who gave him a signal, Max charged at the sea lion. Under his companions' watchful eyes, Max tore off a piece of meat right in front of the sea lion. This was undoubtedly a provocation. The sea lion watched Max escape, then angrily dove into the water and rapidly pursued him. Meanwhile, Max's companions arrived at the whale carcass and began eating. After chasing for a while, the sea lion suddenly realized it had been tricked and quickly returned. It soon reached the whale, and by the time Max noticed, it was too late. The sea lion viciously bit down on Maya's hind leg. The dogs were so frightened they jumped to higher ground. Only Max, fearless of danger, charged at the sea lion. Max leaped onto the sea lion's back and fiercely bit back. The other dogs then sprang into action, attacking the sea lion together. Realizing the situation had turned against it, the sea lion jumped into the water and fled. The dogs wagged their tails, celebrating their victory. Only Maya lay on the ground, unable to stand. Her hind leg was too severely injured. Not wanting to sadden her teammates, Maya endured the pain and stood up. Under the dog's watchful eyes, Maya slowly walked to the whale carcass, and only then did the other dogs approach and devour the meat. This was the fullest they had eaten in 6 months. But when the dogs returned to the base, Maya could no longer hold on and collapsed in pain. Her companions all stayed with her, keeping watch through wind and rain. During this time, Max led the companions to find food, but whatever Max found, he would place before Maya, waiting for her to redistribute it. However, Maya pushed the food back to Max. Maya's gesture meant that from that day forward, Max would be the new leader. The companions also placed their food before Max and stood in a row, waiting for Max to redistribute it. Everyone had witnessed Max's progress over these months and was willing to follow his arrangements. Meanwhile, having found the first Martian meteorite in Antarctica, the doctor was giving a speech at an awards ceremony. He thanked his family, his team, and the foundation that supported him, but failed to mention the dogs that had saved his life. Listening to the applause around him, Tony felt it was deeply ironic. Tony had come to say goodbye to the doctor. Tony couldn't let go of those 8 dogs. Whether they were dead or alive, Tony had to return to Antarctica to check on them. The doctor only wished Tony a safe journey before returning to people's hollow praise. When he got home, the doctor discovered a drawing on his son's bedside table. In people's eyes, Dad was their hero, but his hero was the 8 dogs that had saved his father. The doctor realized that his once kind and brave heart seemed to have been clouded by worldly fame and reputation. However, Tony's plan to return to Antarctica wasn't going smooth. In the depths of winter, no fishermen at the dock were willing to lend him a boat. Just then, a waiter brought over a beer, saying it was from a lady at the bar. The man turned to see all his former companions there. It turned out this was all arranged by the doctor. Last night, he had decided to bring back those 8 true heroes. With the doctor's help, they rented an icebreaker and successfully reached the research station closest to Antarctica. Then, driving a snow vehicle, they finally arrived on the 175th day of the dog's ordeal. But after getting out, no dogs came to greet them. Everyone felt heavy-hearted. Tony looked at the entire chain buried under snow and fell silent. He pulled hard on the chain, but couldn't budge it. Understanding what he was about to see, Tony endured the pain and cleared away the snow above. Then Tony saw a dog's ear. Looking at the body on the ground, Tony felt deeply guilty. After a long moment, Tony mentally prepared himself and reached further down, only to discover with delight that the second chain was broken. This meant the dog might still be alive. Tony instantly realized something and pulled up all the chains. Tony and his companions were shocked. The remaining dogs had broken free from their chains and escaped. Suddenly, several dog barks came from beyond the hill. The dogs had heard the sounds and come. No one could believe the dogs were still alive. In that moment, the dogs showed no resentment at all. Even though humans had abandoned them, when they reunited, they still threw themselves at the humans without hesitation. Looking at the familiar faces of the dogs, Tony was overjoyed. But he noticed Maya and Kevin were missing. So Tony looked toward the hill, hoping for one more surprise. But after waiting a long time, he saw no sign of them. The man realized he had been greedy. He should be happy that these 5 were still alive. But just as the team was preparing to leave, Max refused to go no matter what. Then Max ran toward the hill, and Tony immediately followed. It turned out Maya was lying there weakly. Tony came to Maya's side, and looking at her frozen body, shed tears of guilt. Tony kept saying sorry to Maya, as if hearing her master's voice. Maya's eyes suddenly moved. Tony reached out and touched her, delighted to discover that Maya was still alive. This is a true story, based on the real experiences of a Japanese Antarctic expedition team in 1957. However, reality was far more brutal than the movie. Of the 15 dogs left behind, only 8 managed to break free from their chains, and in the end only 2 survived.